Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today I have with us Courtney Stone. Courtney, would you mind just sharing your story with us and telling you about a personal ground zero moment, if you have one, and if not, just as I said, reverting back to your story and just sharing with us how you got from where you were to where you are today?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Courtney. My ground zero moment was probably, I would say, March 2020, COVID, like everyone else. I was actually supposed to be studying abroad in Australia. And fun fact, they don't start their semesters until early March. So I got there like end of February, was there for about 2 weeks, and then they said, "Hey, go home." And I'm like, "Oh, what a great life experience that didn't turn out to be." But it was still cool to see. At that point, I didn't really have any job prospects. I was just at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Like that's my alma mater now since I graduated in 2021 in May. But yeah, so I came back, had minimal credits, didn't really have any kind of ambitions to do much because it was COVID and everyone was locked in the house. And then my friend's father was actually like, "Hey, I know you're an English major. Do you want to write an article for me about real estate?" So that's the company that I'm working at now, which is Liberty Real Estate Fund, also with Concordia Equity Partners. But yeah, so I started in the end of March 2020, just picked up that. The opportunity kind of fell in my lap. And I was like, you know what? This is a different field. I've never even known about real estate ever in my life. Let's go for it. And I appreciate an opportunity and I like to write. So I did. And then one thing led to another. I started doing podcast transcriptions for him, other projects for him. And then now here I am as the marketing director. It's how I met Adam Carswell too, because I also work for him now. So yeah, that was kind of like the moment. COVID kind of really cut me off, but it also like gave me the best opportunity in the way that I needed it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people can kind of relate to not exactly, but similar types of opportunities revealing themselves in that difficult time that was obviously COVID. Me especially, I know as well. Honestly, had COVID not hit, I probably never would have had the opportunity to meet Adam, which has then led to obviously numerous opportunities since then. But he attended a symposium virtually at Westminster, which is our what's the word? Our both of our alma mater. So that's where I had the opportunity to meet him virtually, and obviously one thing led to another, and here we are now. But as I said, it's weird how in a lot of those times of like, I guess you could say like crisis of panic, that therein lies the best opportunities. And there's a lot of people that would tell you the same, but most kids our age don't exactly think of those things as such. A lot of people kind of just, I guess you could say, wallow in the setback and just kind of wonder what they're going to do. But then there's people that, I don't want to say find opportunities, but just recognize them. And that's a good opportunity, not a good opportunity. That's a good example of pretty much exactly what you did, where an opportunity just kind of presented itself. And you said, you know what, like, this isn't exactly where I pictured myself being, but you know what, like, this is something that I think I could actually enjoy. And then it's led you to lots of different things, obviously down the road now. So I guess I just kind of want to ask, based on that story, how you were kind of able to accept that change and now morph into this new position that really you never really pictured yourself being in, especially, you know, like you said, you went to school as an English major, but I know, I mean, I don't necessarily know, but you could also touch on this as well, that I'm sure when you were going through school, you weren't exactly picturing yourself working for a real estate company coming out of graduation. So
yeah,
I'm just going to leave that open to you to kind of touch on that a little bit.
yeah, I definitely did not know anything about net lease properties, but now I have a little YouTube video series on Liberty's page explaining some stuff. So I feel like I did get a step in the right direction. But no, it's I kind of just, why turn an opportunity down that could only really help you, especially if there's some kind of passion in there for you, and mine is writing. So I was like, I also love to learn. I'm a nerd. So I have like journalism and econ minors too. So it wasn't a complete turnaround for real estate, but it's a very different market than economics in general. So yeah, it just, the opportunity presented itself, and why wouldn't you take an opportunity? I'm the type of person that if something falls into my lap, I'm not just gonna like toss it away. I feel like that's what some people kind of do. They see opportunities and they don't necessarily appreciate what it could do for them in the future. And that's just, I don't want to be that person, because then that's where regret comes from. And I don't want to regret any decision that I've made. So yeah, I took the opportunity, I rolled with it, watched a lot of different podcasts and read a lot of different books and audiobooks. And yeah, it was eye-opening, and now I am in a field that I didn't expect to, but I really appreciate and have met so many like good, smart, intelligent people like you,
Yeah,
Courtney.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I just kind of wonder a little bit as well. Like, obviously, going kind of being thrown into a field that you have no experience with whatsoever. And like you said, you don't want to make any sort of decisions that you regret. How were you kind of able to tackle that situation in your mind where, like, yes, this is an opportunity and you don't want to turn down the opportunity, but you also look at this big opportunity and say, I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing here. So, how exactly am I going to handle this? And then you have to, obviously overcome those obstacles of the mind and then make those steps, like you said, listening to podcasts, reading books, like actually taking those steps to learn that industry, to put yourself in the best position to excel in that new role. So if you could just touch on that a little bit as well, just kind of what was going through your head at that time in, just kind of having to tackle that new responsibility when you really had no clue really what that even looked like.
Yeah, so I was very lucky. I consider him someone a mentor, Michael Flight, who gave me the job, who's the CEO of Liberty. He's the one who kind of talked me through it, gave me these podcasts and stuff, and was like, "Why?" He's a great teacher. He's huge on educating people, and I guess I've always had the mindset of learn as much as you can. So it wasn't necessarily a new thing for me to pick something up, because I'll pick up just random hobbies here and there just to try new things, because I like to try new things. So it wasn't completely out of my wheelhouse to shift perspectives, but I get that some people are very different with change, and sometimes it's a little harder for them to grapple with it. In that scenario, I feel like it's just looking at your options and what would you be missing out on by taking another opportunity. That's kind of my thing, is that it wouldn't be taking away any experience from me. It's just adding another experience that would help me in the future. So I guess that was another thing too. I'm like, well, if I turn this down, then what else am I going to be doing? It's COVID. I'm locked in a house. Classes are over in the summer too, so there's not much to do. So why not learn about something new and try it out? So that's how I kind of talked myself into it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of where I've even made some decisions over the past couple of years has come from a place of just why not? And, really that's really kind of become a powerful little, I guess you could say catchphrase for me, especially like when I first started working with Adam, he was introducing me to all these kind of people, and I met a few other young individuals that were really just out there making moves and really, no more than 2, 3 years older than me. And I'm just sitting there like, why can't that be me? Why am I not, that one? Because I know obviously how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, but then seeing other people doing the same, that's where I was really like, okay, there's no reason that I can't be one of these people as well. There's no reason that when people have a conversation about these two, I shouldn't be in that conversation as well. And that's where I think that little catchphrase of why not really started to kind of shift in, where I was like, you know what, like I'm going to make something happen too. And, absolutely worst case, I tried it, because otherwise, like you said, you don't want your decision to come from a place of regret. And I know that I'm definitely somebody that, had I made a decision to pass on that it would have been something that I probably would have regretted, because I never would have known what that experience would have led to. And it's been numerous different things. So absolutely understanding where you're coming from there, and kind of bouncing back to the point that you made about like, about kind of the books and teachings of others. Do you kind of recall any of the books that people kind of pointed you to at first? I know, just in case there's anybody out there listening right now that's potentially looking to kind of get that first little understanding of the real estate world, or maybe blockchain, or any of those things of the sort, or maybe just some teaching specifically from mentors that kind of you were given along the way to help you shape your original understanding. Is there anything along those lines that you can kind of recall to share with our listeners?
Yeah. So I think the first book that I ever read was ClickFunnels, because Michael gave it to me. He's like, here, read this. And I'm like, okay, let's go. I hear Russell Brunson's great. So or it's like Expert Secrets, I believe. It's not ClickFunnels. Yeah, it's Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. super inspiring just to see how his thought process was. Very interesting. I had no idea what a ClickFunnels was, so I was like, okay, and it didn't really have to pertain to real estate per se. But then that was just motivational in a sense. And then the first real estate, like pure real estate story, I believe, was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, like everyone else apparently that I've heard from every other podcast. And that was just very inspiring to hear how he, from a young age, just took every opportunity to kind of build up this like knowledge of real estate and then support his family, make this giant corporation, and yeah, live his life that way. And it inspired me to want to look into real estate and then become a multimillionaire through it too, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, that one. And then I have to give a shout out to 10X by Grant Cardone, because the 10X rule kind of sets you off to kind of get that motivational aspect. And also, yeah, real estate tycoon over there. So he's doing something right, obviously, and everyone talks about him as well. So those were kind of the three starter books that got me onto it. And I'd recommend to anyone to read. And just their stories in general are inspiring, but the fact that they kind of relate to real estate, most of them are also, if you're looking in that field specifically, they're great resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can personally vouch for each of those readings as well. I've read each of them and I loved every single one of them. I love Russell Brunson's style, just the way that he really weaves story into, pretty much everything that he says and does. And that's where, like you said, it was just really inspiring to, go through, obviously him, like, and it's the strangest thing because the whole thing, you just feel like you're kind of reading about his life, but it's really him teaching you about what a sales funnel is and about, all of the technology kind of behind it and the thought and things to, excel in doing that, as well as then shifting to Rich Dad Poor Dad, which was also the first one that I read, which I was recommended from a mentor as well. And that one, I mean, really just kind of helped me open my eyes to the possibilities of everything that I knew. Where, I thought, I guess you could say, I thought that the world was so small and the possibilities were limited. And really, it just kind of opened my eyes to, just because nobody else sees the possibilities doesn't mean that they're not there. So that's definitely another great one as well, to kind of just help you kind of shape a new reality of, what that looks like for you. And then obviously the 10X rule as well. If there's anything that Grant Cardone can do well, it's quite it's figuratively kick you in the butt. Like, he is, I mean, probably first and foremost a motivator. He is just one of those people that is always in your face, but it's almost always valuable. And that's another one that, like, it's very straight to the point. There's no beating around the bush whatsoever, but he tells you what it is and what it's going to take. And that's why it's another one that I think is a really good recommendation. So thank you for all of those. Bouncing back to mentors a little bit, I know that obviously in your life as well as mine so far, mentors have been huge, and yours being Michael also being one of mine. So I definitely understand where you're coming from there, and then Adam as well for both of us. Just different things I look back that wouldn't have been possible without the help of a mentor, and different little teachings that I picked up from them that honestly saved me tons of time and effort, really. So I just kind of want to ask, kind of looking back on, all the different teachings and things you've had from your different mentors, what do you think is maybe the best piece of advice that you've received from one of your mentors to this date?
I mean, I didn't personally receive it, but I was listening to Adam talk with Timmy about it on his podcast. But it kind of hit home because he also says the same thing to me. But it's kind of just I don't know, perfection. If you're a perfectionist, you're kind of procrastinating all the time. And why procrastinate? Because that just prolongs like no work in general. And go after what you want. So don't waste time on little details. Throw something together if you want to throw something together. Try out new things. Don't ever just delay because you feel like you can't. I don't know. That's kind of, yeah, just a motivational. You can do what you want, so do it. Like, make your own podcast if you want to. He's been pushing me. He's like, hey, if you want to, I can also help you with that. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, but I'll be a guest on one. But yeah, I would say just motivate yourself. Don't procrastinate on things, and just believe that you can do whatever you want because you really can. That's kind of testament. And that's also what those books teach you too, is just like, especially Grant, it's like set a goal, but then like turn it up 20 notches because you are capable. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think that really what you just said is gold because, and if anybody out there is anything like me, I really have a love-hate relationship with procrastination.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously we all love putting things off, but at the same time, like you can look at it and know when it's detrimental to you. So like for me, I mean, like I work, I think I work better under pressure, where when I have like a given deadline to get things done, I'm able to kind of zero in, focus on those things and make sure that I get them done. Whereas if I have kind of an open, just wide open, range of time that I have, I'm more likely to put things off and I'm less productive in those times. I don't know who originally says the quote or anything like that, but I have definitely heard, I've seen memes, I've heard it numerous times over my research and things that like whatever amount of time you give yourself to complete a task, that's the amount of time that you're going to complete it. If you give yourself 8 hours to finish a paper, you're going to finish your paper in 8 hours. If you give yourself 1 hour to finish your paper, you're going to finish it in an hour. And it's all just kind of really a mind thing for that. But I mean, it's definitely something that when I first heard it, I was like, wow, you know what? That's actually really true. I mean, and it's just, I think it's really important to the point that you just made because it really all depends on the constraint that you put on yourself. Where like, am I going to get this done in 2 weeks? Am I going to get this done in 2 days? Am I going to get this done in 2 hours? It really depends how hard you want to work at it and how easily you can kind of block out the rest of the world and just focus on that task at hand.
Mhm.
So that's
And
why I
going
think that's a really important. Yeah, go ahead.
behind that is just like you can set your own deadline sometimes. If someone doesn't give you a deadline, the best thing you can do for yourself is give yourself that deadline because then you will let it slip in the back of your mind. And then when it actually needs to be done, you're gonna be like, oh, shoot, I completely just let that go, even though I had all this time. It's another step to kind of take accountability. I don't know. I like to-do lists now. That's my huge thing to organize myself. I got like weekly and daily like lists so I can give that little serotonin like check whenever I need it. Cause hey, it's actually physically proven to like release serotonin when you check something off a list. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's like just go for it, make that list. And it's very satisfying too. So I don't know. Yeah, make your own deadlines. It's not a hard thing. It's a little more flexible than someone else giving it to you, but also it gives you some kind of structure to work from and then also helps you just organize your life better too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really powerful tool to use as well. Like you said, just one of the things that I always like to talk about on the show is like kind of embracing the little victories. And like you just mentioned, those little serotonin checks that you get to knock things off of your to-do list, just little things like that can honestly really help you in terms of productivity. Because I mean, sometimes like I get it, we all have days where we just don't get anything done. I mean, and it happens. Like some days you get the dog, some days the dog gets you. And
Yep.
really that's okay. But just little things like that can at least help you achieve something on those days where, like something as little as making your bed, like just a little bit of thing, just a little thing that you can say, you know what, I did get something done today. Did you make your bed? Did you shower? Did you brush your teeth? There's little things like that. And I know they all seem novel, but in all reality, like if it's one of those days, every little bit helps. And then those first couple things you can say, you know what, yeah, I don't feel great, but I've already done these 3 things. Maybe now I can read a chapter of X book, or maybe now I can work on, X project for a half an hour or an hour. Just little things like that can really help in terms of building momentum and kind of keeping you on that productivity track.
Yeah, I think that's really true. Especially like if you're feeling unmotivated and you stay unmotivated, that you're gonna stay unmotivated. You gotta actually get yourself started. And then once you're productive, I feel like at least for me, once I'm in that mindset, I just never want to stop being productive because it feels so much better to get things done and actually be productive. Yeah. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can attest to that many times over. I mean, like you said, it's like the struggle is getting yourself into that state. And I mean, obviously, I'm no, psychology professor or anything like that, where I can't exactly tell you what, the exact click is. But once you're usually in state, you can just ride that wave. You know what I mean? And you can get done whatever you want that day. The hardest part is doing it again the next day, and then the next day, and continually finding a way to get yourself into that state. And I mean, the biggest thing I can say for that is figure out what that thing is for you. What is it? Whether it's listening to a specific song, whether it's reading a particular book, whether it's, find those small little actions that you can repeat that get you into that state of mind, like whatever it is. What I don't, just, yeah, anyway, whatever it is. And then just use that as your trigger yourself, get yourself into that right mindset so that you can, excel and get things done, whether that be for yourself or for someone else. Just whatever those things are, create a little routine for yourself. Whether that be, you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is go for a run, or you get up in the morning and you watch, I don't know, motivational videos for 10 minutes or something before you go do, whatever it is. Just find those different little pattern breakers that can get you out of your procrastinating habits and get you into more productive habits. That's what I would say my best advice is to anybody out there listening right now with that struggle. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a morning routine to like get me in the mindset of going. I gotta get up, make my bed, make coffee because I can't function without it. I listen to my daily like news podcast, so then it kind of like gets me in the mood of, oh, the world, though I have to do something to like help out in the world because it's not necessarily the best right now. But yeah, that kind of just gets me in the mindset of not like putting on like music, and just some people can do that. If I put on music, I'm just going to be fuzzy brained and not focused. But I set those little markers in the morning, and if I do them, I'm on track for the rest of the day basically. And I check in too at noon and be like, how much did I get done? How much do I have to do tomorrow? Does this look like I can shift ways? And just, I don't know, the to-do lists are my huge advice, I think, especially if you're like that person that needs like that physical, just like cross off the board, like I did this. Then that's another thing too that I would highly recommend you do, because it does kind of just give you something physical to look at and appreciate that you have done stuff with your day, even if it's just like not work stuff, but like, yeah, you brushed your teeth, good for you. You took a shower, great. Stuff like that. If that's what motivates you, then yeah, make those little habits, and those habits will then, if you continue them every day, you're already in that same mode of, okay, now it's time to be productive, this is the next step.
Yeah, I mean, and touching back on that real quick, if I'm being completely honest, if you do those three things every day, you're a step ahead of a lot of people already. So, already kind of building up that productive mindset. But, and one more thing, kind of reverting back to that, if I know you mentioned that, like, if you turn on music, your head kind of gets fuzzy. I will say that, in my personal experience, I've had some decent results in listening to podcasts instead. It doesn't necessarily have to be something extremely educational, because I know, like, when I first wake up, my mind isn't necessarily there 100%. So, like, don't necessarily listen to something that you have to remember all of it, but, get somebody else's voice coming into your mind that is going to wake you up a little bit. Like, me, honestly, that voice is Andy Frisella. That dude, like, he kind of has a very similar style to, like, we talked about with Grant Cardone. Like, he will tell you how it is, and he's very straight to the point. And if you're not living up to that expectation, he'll tell you that. And it's just where it kind of wakes me up. Then I sit there and listen to him and I go, you know what? Yeah, what am I doing? And then I go off on my day and I go do those things. So, if anybody wants to look him up, go ahead, obviously, by all means. But I just wanted to share that there are different avenues you can take there, rather than just music, if that doesn't exactly work for you. I know we also mentioned audiobooks earlier. If there's a particular book that could do that, but you don't necessarily want to get up and read it, there's multiple, different audio options now. I mean, if you don't even necessarily want to purchase the audiobook, I know YouTube has some people that'll do reads and stuff on there as well. So, hit Google, figure out what works for you, and have at it. But I will go ahead and ask you one more question before we go ahead and start to wind it down here. I know you've probably got a busy day ahead. So I know we've talked a lot about just different habits and motivators and things today, but one thing we really haven't touched on yet is if you've had any moments where you really felt that you kind of like failed, or just a moment where you kind of up and fell on your face, that you feel just that moment taught you a lesson that you've really been able to incorporate into the rest of your life, kind of, paving the way into who you are now. And I just want to ask you if you kind of have any stories of one of those moments that you want to share with us.
So the most recent one that comes to mind, because yeah, I don't always succeed really, but I I helped set up the blockchain real estate summit in Austin, Texas, early September this year, and I was in charge of all like the name badges, scheduling, all like the physical materials, and some stuff got lost in the mix. Some people got lost in the shuffle of our different systems because we didn't ever do this before, and I'd never set up an event in my life. That was actually the first event that I've ever gone to in my life. So I was like, oh, interesting. Well, real estate event, but so that kind of like slapped me in the face a little bit because I was like, oh, I don't have these people's name badges and they paid for this event. I felt really bad. But I mean, the feedback though was great. They were like, it's fine. Don't sweat the little things always. Like, yeah, that's part of my job. And that's going to definitely change next year if I help set it up again. That's like, I know what to do now. It's taking those like moments, humbling yourself a bit and being like, okay, everyone makes mistakes. What can we do to fix this? Don't freak out. Don't lose your head because I almost did a lot during that weekend, but it's okay. Just take some deep breaths and like, yeah, I took a step back and then I learned a lot from it. I know what systems to use. I know how to use the systems in general now. I know just I learned a lot from failing. So I feel like that's those moments of failures are actually the best for you because one, yeah, they humble you, and two, you learn so much more. And you always learn more when it kind of like hits harder in the worst way. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really hit the nail on the head there. That's really one of the most misinterpreted best things about failing is that it hits you hard enough that you're not going to do it again. And
Mhm.
that's where like small little things, as far as like maybe like a school assignment or something, if you miss like one or two things and you still get a passing grade, you don't really think much of it. And next test or next exam, next project, whatever you want to call it, like you might make that same mistake because it wasn't big enough to truly affect you in any way, shape, or form. Where something like that, like I'm sure you were embarrassed, like you felt that, like there was a very physical, reaction to all of that, as well as, just, the emotions involved in everything, to the point that like you're going to remember that anytime a situation like that comes again. And that's, like I said, one of the best things about it, because now and now I know that you're not going to make that mistake again. And like you said, obviously it was great that it was well received and nobody was really upset with you over it, but it's still something that like it hits you hard enough that you're like, wow, okay, yeah, not doing that again, moving on to the next thing. So like I said, that's just really one of the things that I think is kind of overlooked about failing, because obviously nobody wants to do bad, nobody wants to fail, and that's okay. But it is one of the, as you just said, one of the best ways to learn, and it's one of the best ways to ensure that you won't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah, completely agree. I learned the hard way, but it's the hard way is sometimes the best way to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely, I would say it's the one that sticks. That's for sure. But
Mhm.
I do feel like it is about time to start winding it down here. So, in closing, I always like to ask the guests a specific question, and that question is, if you could go back and have a conversation with yourself while you were in that quote unquote ground zero moment, and I know, like we spoke about earlier, it's not necessarily a huge thing, but just kind of if you could go back to your younger self and have a conversation, knowing what you know now, what do you think you would tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself, um, appreciate this opportunity more. I mean, I appreciate it in the moment, but I didn't realize what it was actually going to do for me in the future. Like, I didn't know this was going to be my job a year and a half later still. Um, absorb the material that I'm listening to because, yeah, I transcribe podcasts, but then sometimes I just like type it out and I don't actually listen back. I'm like, take in everything that you are learning because it is so like people don't have these opportunities and what just fell in your lap is really good. So don't procrastinate as much. Do your work on time. Don't get bogged down by the little things. Like don't let criticism get to you. Like really take it into your like self and internalize it because it's constructive criticism. It's not just someone like criticizing. So I would say, yeah, that, just kind of, yeah, don't procrastinate. Take the opportunities and really appreciate them more, and just, yeah, focus, and everything is going to be fine. It's going to all work out.
Absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head again. Well, thank you so much, Courtney. I mean, today's honestly been really great. We've had another great guest with us today on the show. If anybody wanted to follow up and get in touch with you, what would be the best way to do that?
You can email me at courtney@libertyfund.io. That'd probably be the best way to get hold of me. I'm also on LinkedIn, just Courtney-Stone. I think that should be enough, but see the space. It's pretty, um, it should be up there. It's, yeah, looks like me, I think. So yeah, LinkedIn or my email.
100%, guys. You heard it here. Reach out to her if you want. If anything she mentioned in today's episode rung true with you, she's a great person and she's really out here grinding, making things happen right now. So definitely something to take away from today. Thank you again, Courtney, for coming on and sharing stories with us about your personal experience and being willing to offer that to somebody else's advice. So just thank you again. Really appreciate the opportunity. And with that, everyone, always remember this is Dream Chasers Ground Zero. And there's nowhere to go from here. But thanks again, Courtney.
Thank you.